What do you think Kathy Wood, a realized Tesla bull, needs to say regarding Tesla stock? Most examiners are expecting a sharp slope in Tesla stock cost in the financial exchange toward the start of 2023. You most certainly would have no desire to miss this reality wins out when loan fees descend following expansion, said Kathy Wood. Increasing took care of rates are brought up by a larger number of people as the justification behind falling stock costs in the securities exchange is different. Financial backers stressed the U.S. could confront a downturn by 2023 circular segment. Speculation the board organizer Kathy Wood thinks one as of now has hit, and that it very well may be over in 2023, while numerous financial experts and tacticians have been opposing the thought that we are in a downturn and guess that the U.S. might enter 1 year from now we really think will be. Emerging from it in 2023 expressed Wood in late June. Kathy Wood cautioned that the U.S. is now in a downturn curve. Contribute President Kathy Wood conceded during a meeting with CNBC that she had misjudged the seriousness of expansion and continued to guarantee that the U.S. economy is logical currently in a downturn, would fault store network disturbances and international variables like the conflict in Ukraine for compounding inflationary tensions past what she had expected. She likewise said that a downturn driven to some extent by fumbled inventories had proactively started in mid-2022. Wood said that the U.S. is now in a really huge stock downturn, yet that it won't be in any way similar to the foundational downturn and monetary emergency in 2008 to 2009. She made sense of that. It would be all the more atypical, I feel, that what we found in the fallout of coronavirus will be continued during yet not only for a one-year term, for the following 5 to a decade, said Wood. She then spread out a timetable for development, expressing that the U.S. is presently in a period like no other in history. Would make sense of that. This is from information assembled by Curve, contributes boss futurist Brett Winton in the wake of counseling, scholastics, and scholarly examination. These were the genuine troublesome developments since forever ago. Wood called attention to that. There's just a single other time before today that the U.S. has seen various advancement stages develop simultaneously. As per Kathy Wood, it was during the mid-1900s. When the phone power in the car changed the world. Wood took it a bit further and said that the U.S. is presently in a period like it was in those days. At the time, there was a pandemic, the Spanish influenza, and the Second War. Those are ostensibly like what we have encountered in the previous year with the worldwide coronavirus pandemic, as well as the Russia-Ukraine war. Anyway, those issues were remarkably much more terrible than our concerns today, actually, in any event. During those difficult stretches, development took off, and the U.S. wound up with expansion cresting at 24% in June of 1920 and dropping in no less than 1 year to pessimistic 15% in June of 1921. Having experienced an exceptionally extreme period, we wound up in what was called in those days the Thundering 20s. It was an extraordinary time for the securities exchange. It was an incredible time for ventures of different types since expansion and loan fees were descending. Said Would then keep on saying that today there are 5 advancement stages developing simultaneously. In the U.S., this has never occurred in history, and the seeds for every one of them were planted during the 20 years that finished in the tech and telecom bubble. The tech and telecom bubble is whenever a ton of financial backers first heard this idea of dramatic development, and they got involved with the fantasy. Yet the issue was, in those days, the innovations weren't prepared, and on the off chance that they weren't remotely close to prepared, the expenses were too high. Shared Wood further made sense of that. We didn't get the cloud until 2006 with AWS, and that we didn't make the enormous leaps forward in man made reasoning with profound learning until 2012. As far as DNA sequencing, when the principal entire human genome was sequenced, one individual's genome back in 2003, it had required $2.7 billion and 13 years of processing ability to succession. That one genome, regardless of whether the expense had fallen the following year, by 75% it would in any case have been excessively costly, considering that we have gone from $2.7 billion for one individual's genome in those days to $500 today. And a couple of long stretches of figuring power. As a matter of fact, 2 organizations, Illumina and Ultima, guarantee that it is very feasible for it to be 100 or 200 by the following year. So we accept we are good to go now. The innovations are prepared and the expenses are low. An adequate number of that is basic, says Wood. Now, what are these stages that Kathy Woods that are developing simultaneously today? Initially is DNA sequencing, which is currently called multi-blend sequencing, since it is not generally exclusively centered around DNA sequencing, yet presently incorporates RNA, proteins, and methylation. It's extremely confounded, yet it's truly thrilling. We will fix sickness because of these forward leaps. And as a matter of fact, we've proactively had one a vital advancement just inside the last week. Said Wood, another development would allude to as mechanical technology. As per her, modern robot costs are dropping steeply. We have a worked efficiency development. Tackles issues. The interest for robots is soaring right now. Wood said energy capacity is one more advancement that Kathy Wood highlighted by her shopper inclinations moving to advancement. Wood said that it isn't simply in light of the Russia-Ukraine war, which made oil costs go up, yet additionally on the grounds that these are currently better vehicles that are all the more harmless to the ecosystem. Another is man-made brainpower. The leap forwards in man-made intelligence today, I need to tell you, are staggering even to us presently. We're attempting to look as far into the future as we can, Ted. And we are seeing leap forwards that we expected in 5 or a decade occurring in no less than a half year, once in 1 year presently, said Wood. The last developing advancement that Kathy Wood discussed is the Visit GPT APC. Program sent off by OpenAI in November 2022 and is based on top of OpenAI's GPT-3.5 group of huge language models and is tweaked with both regulated and support learning methods among the 5 at the same time advancements today that Kathy would discuss. Tesla envelops 3 of them. Advanced mechanics, man-made intelligence, and energy stockpiling. Due to this, many are hopeful about the organization's future. Tesla is supposed to declare record quarterly conveyances toward the beginning of January, yet that may not be sufficient to fulfill financial backers as the electric vehicle. Pioneer wrestles with expansion, increasing loan fees, pleaded creation in China, and worries about mellowing interest with an end goal to clear stock. Tesla offered an uncommon 7,500 rebate to clients in the US who took conveyance of another Model 3 or Model Y toward the year's end, alongside 10,000 miles of free supercharging. The Expansion Decrease Act, or IRA, will reestablish up to 7,500 in government tax breaks for specific EVs beginning January 1st. Conveyances are one of the most firmly watched measurements by financial backers anxious to check whether Tesla can keep up with its quick development. Worldwide final quarter conveyances could arrive at 4,760 vehicles, as per 16 experts reviewed by Bloomberg. The gauge, which does exclude a portion of the later examiner projections, surpasses the record 343,830. Vehicles conveyed in the second from last quarter. Tesla is the world's predominant dealer of electric vehicles and is strategically situated to exploit a portion of the IRA's tax reductions for battery cell fabricating and privately gathered EVs, yet to meet its objective to develop conveyances by 50 yearly, more than quite a while. An objective Tesla cautioned it would miss the mark concerning in 2022. Tesla will probably make compromises with regards to net edges. Tesla has reduced costs across its setup in China, booked personal time at its plant in Shanghai. Actually, Money Road is extending just shy of 420,000 units for the last quarter of 2022. As per 24 enormous representatives in the beyond couple of weeks, conveyance gauges have been descending. Final quarter gauges crested at around 450,000 units in the late spring. Coming into December, the final quarter agreement gauge was about 430,000 units, as per FactSet, a monetary information organization that rundowns in excess of 40 examiners that cover Tesla stock. A number around 420,000 ought to be sufficient for financial backers when conveyance results top assumptions. Tesla shares regularly perform well in the space between conveyance results and when full quarterly outcomes are accounted for half a month after the fact. Additionally, experts anticipate that Tesla conveyances should develop around